All right, hello everyone. Welcome to other video into my YouTube channel. This time I know you haven't heard me speaking in English, but this time I need to. I have to because I have a very special guest today. I've been following the web AI ecosystem for the last year, and there is something that excites me around, and it's all of this evolution, having all of this tool in the browser. And I'm here in the DevFest of DevFest, the Silicon Valley DevFest here in the Google office. And you know that is the most important one because I have direct interaction with Googlers. And today I have Jason, one of my idols that inspire me a lot. I follow his content in many different ways, and I have it here with me. I will allow him to present. He leads the web AI ecosystem in Google. So Jason, thank you very much for being with me. I really appreciate this space. And why do you don't tell my audience who are you and
Sure.
Why is your role so relevant in Google around the web AI ecosystem?
Great questions. Thank you for having me on your interview. So yes, I'm Jason Mays. I lead Web AI at Google, which is the art of running AI models client-side in a web browser using your own local compute to run those models. So you get some benefits of that, like privacy and zero cost for the inference. So it's been taking off over the last few years. We've gone from 1 million yearly downloads back in 2019 to over 1.2 billion downloads in 2024, I think it was. So really growing fast, 1,000x organic growth in that time. So, web developers, JavaScript developers, even Python developers who are looking to get more eyes on their models and reach and scale of the web are starting to embrace web AI more and more. So we can run pretty much all the models over there from regular machine learning models like segmentation and object detection kind of stuff, all the way to generative AI, okay? So yeah, that's basically what I look after at Google, and I work across several different orgs at Google. So I represent some of the Gemma models from the DeepMind team, which are converted via the MediaPipe team to run in the web browser. So those couple of teams are there. I also work with Chrome to talk about their built-in AI and help them ensure Chrome can be the best it can be with the web AI lens on. And I also historically have represented TensorFlow.js. And looking towards the future, there's a new team formed called LightRT.js, which eventually would replace the TensorFlow.js stack. So a bit of everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's great. I will start with something a little different, which is basically you show in your website that you are 51% technical, 49% creative. How that looks like, and why that exact numbers in your percentage?
So this have to rewind all the way back to my university days where I studied computer science. So for that reason alone, I consider myself slightly more on the technical side. My training and background is programming primarily. But very early on, I realized that if you make something, people won't just come and use it. You need a really good UX and design, in addition to having a solid backend and scalable and secure infrastructure. So that's when I got into the web stack, and I realized I can combine both my creative skills along with my more academic coding skills. And that's the intersection I really enjoyed. So a lot of the times I see myself primarily technical, but with a strong passion to make it usable and have a great design, something innovative and novel as well. So I'm trying to blend those worlds together essentially.
How much of that 49 creativity did you use to create all of this web AI ecosystem?
I think quite a bit of creativity has gone into doing all of that for sure, because it takes a lot of kind of thought to get communities started and get them to rally around a new technology. So you've got to inspire those people with new prototypes or something to really captivate their minds, to show them the power of these technologies and tools. So that requires some creative thinking to be able to do that. Yeah.
As you mentioned, the web AI ecosystem is hitting records of downloads everywhere. Why do you think is that excitement around, use the AI in the browser, all of that stuff?
Yeah, I think a bigger issue people are facing now that AI is more mainstream is like how much it costs to run, right? That's definitely top of many people's minds, especially if you're in countries where it might cost a significant portion of your money to subscribe to some of these services, right? by running a lot of these models on the client side, that cost simply just goes away. And even though these models might not be as big as the ones on the cloud or something like this, it's still good enough for like a lot of day-to-day needs, and they're getting more powerful every iteration as well, right? So we're starting to see more people just prefer to run on their own device. They invest in one laptop once, and then they can enjoy the benefits of that hardware they've bought and can leverage that hardware themselves. You've also got the flip side of that with the privacy side, which is very popular in industries like medical, legal, finance, even governments. They like to have that privacy aspect, and sometimes it's a legal requirement in Europe, for example, to have that privacy for certain types of industries. So a lot of adoption for those reasons too.
All right. And you envision a future in which everything would be built in, like in Chrome, everything there, we don't need to pay, we don't need to get out. So maybe it's not now, but maybe in the future it's something that you envision?
Maybe not for everything. I think hybrid is the sweet spot for the foreseeable future, whereby you might have some local models that do run on device to be really fast and low latency and have the privacy aspects as we mentioned. But then you might have to delegate to cloud for certain things. Maybe you need a million context window to do some really intense processing of some large documents or something, and then that you're going to send to the cloud and offload that. But hopefully with this hybrid model, you get the benefits of both, right? You get to have some level of privacy in that all your raw talking to the model is not sent somewhere else, and only the exact task it needs to get done, some subtask is then delegated to a cloud service or a tool or some API or something like this. So you get this kind of nice middle ground, and I think that's where the kind of industry is right now today, and for the next few years, it'll probably be this hybrid approach is the sweet spot for most companies. But looking towards the future a little bit there, obviously I'm slightly biased here, but I'd love to see new models of the future being run entirely locally, and maybe get to a point where new architectures, new inventions happen whereby they're good enough for 99% of the tasks you need to do, and it can all then be done locally. But that's my hopes and dreams. We might not be there for a few more years yet.
Absolutely. So another thing that I have been thinking around is something interesting about Google Chrome that has too many specific APIs, right? We have the writer, read writer, summarizer, and the newly prompt API, right? Which is great. I love because I have a lot of things to play with. So what are, all of that, the specific use cases you envision, why so granular maybe? Sure. So what are your thoughts on that?
So I believe the reason for that is that when we did some testing, just providing people with a prompt API, people weren't sure how to leverage it in their websites to do various things. When we gave them specific APIs like translation or writer, rewriter, that kind of stuff, people were like, oh, that's the task it's meant to be doing. That's the task we know it's going to be good at, no matter what LLM is running behind the scenes. There's some level of guarantee that it's going to be good at translation, or it's going to be good at refactoring my text into a new form or something like this. So it made it kind of easier for a lot of developers to run with and have confidence that it's going to do that task well. And then it's just a case of chaining lots of tasks together to build up some application or something like this. Now the flip side of that is the new prompt API. And of course, with great power comes great responsibility. You're going to have to prompt engineer everything yourself. And people are getting more confident at prompt engineering these days. So I think that's less of a problem now. But back when this all started, that was very new idea and concept. And not all prompts are equal. Some might work very well, some might just not work at all, and that kind of thing. So having that reliability is very important when you're deploying a production level website. When you're trying to translate something, it translates things to the best of their LLM's ability. So they can fine tune the models to be good at translation or something like that. All
right, brilliant. Something that comes to my mind is you founded the term Web AI, right? And you create a community around that term. So you envision some standard, not only for Chrome, but for other browsers to use these kind of APIs?
I started this journey back in 2019, and back then there was just pretty much TensorFlow.js, and my first hashtag back then was made with TFJS. And I started that to kind of centralize a community around this movement of client-side models. But I soon quickly realized that not everyone in the JavaScript community knew the word TensorFlow. It's a very AI term. People from the AI industry only really knew the word TensorFlow. So then I moved the term to WebML, Web Machine Learning. But lo and behold, the industry, all the big news people started using the word AI instead of machine learning, which technically was not correct. Machine learning is the technically correct word for that era. But AI took off. So I realized when you do a Google search, you can see like the kind of searches people are performing, and everyone's searching web AI when they're referring to JavaScript and things like this. So I was like, okay, I need to change the hashtag one more time. And that's why I made it web AI in the end. And that seems to be where it's stuck for now. And people are finding it, they're using it. And whenever they're referring to client-side AI, they now search that term. The other reason I wanted that term is to have a term that is something the community can use that is different from cloud AI, because there's already the cloud AI term. So I wanted the flip side of that, and you could call it client-side AI, but that's not as short and sweet as web AI, web browser, that kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. That's great. Now, knowing a little more about yourself, so in your day-to-day, because you are a top engineer, in your day-to-day, how is that interaction with the AI?
So this is a funny question, because I think the more senior someone is, the less they might use generative AI in their actual coding. I think there's diminishing returns based on your seniority. So if you are a brand new to coding, junior developer, you can probably use Gen AI and be much more productive because it can do things you don't even know how to do yet, and it gives you a starting point and so on and so forth. For me, at this point of my career, I can bash out prototypes in days without any IDEs even, just Sublime Text Editor and me. So for me, it's more efficient just to write what I want and get it done. However, now that generative AI is getting very powerful, I do find myself maybe, if it's a well-defined problem, like I want a function that's no more than 30 lines long that does a regex or something like this and does some very niche thing, I can then get it to do that in seconds, and I can just eyeball it to make sure it's correct and secure, and then I can integrate it to my code. So I might save 10 minutes here or there, but maybe not multiple hours like a junior developer might save. So yeah.
All right. Because that articulates pretty well with my next question, which is basically you have working in projects that are totally out of reality, like the teleportation, real-time conversation, the cloud sizing estimator, all of that, which is amazing. So, how that ideas come to the reality, to your mind, and now do you think you are a little more productive for that kind of out of reality ideas?
So my previous role at Google, I've been at Google 14 years, and my previous role was something called a creative engineer. And my task was to use emerging technologies to tell the stories of Google's top customers. So any big brands you can think of, I can't mention their names, but I probably have worked with them in the past, right? And I had to come up with new ideas for them, things that had never been done before. So maybe, just hypothetically speaking, there's a new Star Wars movie coming out. Maybe I can propose making a life-size projection mapping of a stormtrooper onto some display in a red carpet event, and then combine it with Google's natural language processing back in 2015 or whatever we had back then, to then make it come to life to answer questions about the Star Wars universe as a PR piece, right? And these were $1 million ideas back then in those days, and many didn't see the light of day. But I had to prototype those things to prove it was technically possible nonetheless, or even come up with the ideas myself. So that got me to that mindset of like inventing the future. And then when I started this role for TensorFlow.js on the TensorFlow org, I was like, well, how can I get people inspired about this kind of very hard sounding technology? Because everyone assumed you needed a PhD to work with machine learning in the past, right? So I tried to recreate my passion for sci-fi movies and things. Like, what from those movies can I actually make a reality? And I started with digital teleportation. And I realized with emerging technologies like WebXR for mixed reality experiences in the browser, I could then transmit just my segmentation of my body using a machine learning model in TensorFlow.js, which is good for bandwidth saving. And then I can place that segmentation in the real world on the other end using someone's smartphone, so they can visualize me in their space as if I'm there talking to them in real time. So yeah, I now have a patent for digital teleportation. I also continue that with invisibility cloaks and all these other things. And that was allowing me to kind of grow the community. I then went to more practical things, like you mentioned, like the clothing size estimator, to solve real world problems as well. So once I've got people hooked in, it's like, okay, look, we can do cool stuff, but what's the practical use cases too? And then I was like, well, what's a common problem I was facing? And in COVID, I was stuck at home having to order clothes online, and I didn't know what size I was, this kind of thing. So I had a coding dream about how I could solve this problem, and I have these quite often. And then the next weekend, I'll just code it up, and 90% of the time, it'll work as expected. And that was one of those things where I decided if I can use the segmentation, I can then understand how many pixels are there. And if I know the ratio of pixels to real life size, I can calculate the waist measurements and things like this to then order small, medium, large t-shirts automatically, right? So yeah, some of these just shower thoughts or dreams or something. And
wow. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I think, so then that leads to, because we are getting into the end of this interview, a little more, what is the roadmap about 2-3 years in all of these tools, in all of this building around these tools, in, how is the future in terms of not only web AI, but in general, AI for us as developers, for learners, how is that future for you?
So this is something I've been focused on the last year, and I really believe in it. It's that the internet will mature into an agentic internet, whereby websites and the web pages generally are designed for both humans and agents alike. And we're starting to see new standards come out, like WebMCP, which is being developed by Google and Microsoft employees and the community as well, whereby you can start to annotate APIs or tools or functions on your actual in JavaScript in the web page that the browser or extensions or agents can then leverage to call. So I envision a future where you can just be in your browser and maybe you've got a Chrome extension, or maybe it's just built into the browser in the future, but you could say something like, hey, I want to hire 3 new software engineers in San Francisco who are specialists at robotics, right? And it's going to go and use the LinkedIn MCP to go grab some relevant engineers. And then it's going to go to a recruiter MCP and actually interview them for me on my behalf. And then the top 3 of those come through to me then I do on-sites with those people. And that all happens asynchronously in the background and comes back to me when it's ready each time. And it allows me to save a lot of time in my life. And I think that's where the internet is heading. And that's what all of my Web AI Summit that I just put on has been about recently. And those videos will go up soon on our YouTube channel. So yeah.
All right, awesome. So that has been all. This is Jason Mayer, the mind behind the Web AI Chrome ecosystem. And I really appreciate, Jason. Thank you very much for being with me. This talk that it's amazing having you. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. And hopefully I'll be down in LATAM sometime. That'd be awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. We'll invite you. For
Awesome.
sure.
Thank you.
All right.